Hello, I want to tell you a little story about Yosef in Egypt. So Yosef is in prison and he has interpreted some dreams for servants of Pharaoh that were also in prison, and those dreams came true. And now Pharaoh himself is having some strange dreams about fat cows and thin cows, and the thin cows are swallowing up the fat cows. And no one is able to interpret this for Pharaoh, because Pharaoh knows that his dreams have to affect the whole people. It can't just be about him, and all the interpretations that he was hearing were only dealing with him as a person. But Yosef comes and says, there is going to be famine in Egypt, and that gets Pharaoh's attention, because they're not used to having famine. So then Yosef has an idea. Yosef says what we need is a man who can be the director of the economy and can supervise the harvesting and the storage. Pharaoh says to his advisors, can there be anyone wiser than this Yosef, who interpreted my dream in the first place? So he must be viceroy. So Yosef gets put in charge of everything in Egypt except for Pharaoh himself, and he can do whatever he wants. So they have all this grain that's stored away, and then the famine begins, and Yosef's brothers, not knowing that he's in Egypt, they go down there to buy food, and Yosef sees them and he recognizes them. They don't know him, and he wants to determine, have they changed their ways? How do they feel about him? Is Yaakov alive? Is Benjamin in trouble? So many questions. And he sees Benjamin is not with them, so he's afraid of whether they have gotten rid of him as well. And he asks about them, and they say that Benjamin is still alive and he's with Yaakov, who's still alive as well. And Yosef says, bring him here. And they don't want to bring him, but he insists, and he tells them that they must leave and not come back until they come back with their brother. And so they go back to Canaan, and Yaakov doesn't want to part with Benjamin. Yaakov is afraid of what could happen to him, just like Yosef was lost and missing as well. And when the brothers leave from Egypt, Yosef puts their money back in their sacks, back at the bottom of the sack, because Yosef was at the bottom of something. He was at the bottom of a pit, and the brothers sold him for silver. So he takes silver and he puts it in an empty sack at the bottom to symbolize him, and to clue the brothers in that selling him those 22 years ago was terribly wrong. And the brothers are afraid when they see it, because they think it's an act of Hashem, and they start to realize that it must be because they sold Yosef before, but they're not sorry for selling Yosef. We're only sorry that they didn't listen to his cries and his pleas for mercy. And then when the famine gets really bad, they insist they have to take Benjamin back. And Judah is the only one who convinced Yaakov that he will protect Benjamin. He will do what's right and what's good, and says that he will have sinned against his father for all time if he isn't able to restore Benjamin back to Yaakov. So Yehuda steps up to the plate and becomes the leader. And then Yosef tests the brothers by showing favoritism to Benjamin, to seeing how they react. But the brothers have more understanding now, and they don't seem to mind the favoritism shown to Benjamin. And Benjamin tells Yosef he has 10 sons now, and all of his sons have names related to his missing brother. And so that makes Yosef overcome with emotion, because now all the brothers are together, all the brothers are bowing down to him, which fulfills his dream. And now he sees that the momentum is turning, that they were not his brothers before, but they are becoming his brothers now. But he has to test them one more time by seeing if they really will protect Benjamin. So he puts the silver goblet in Benjamin's sack as well, and he has his servants overtake them and charge them with theft. And he tells the brothers, all of you can go, but Benjamin must stay as a slave. And the Parsha ends on this very tense note before the confrontation between Yehuda and Yosef, the two different types of loyalty and leadership among the Jewish people. And so you will hear about that coming up next. Bye. Shabbat Shalom.